The next part of my Learn to Quilt series is binding your quilt, but before you do that, you are going to want to square off your quilt. So I'm just going to show how I like to do that. Squaring up your quilt corners is a step in the process that you will want to do after quilting, but before binding. So here I've finished quilting my quilt and I have a bunch of extra batting and backing. And during the quilting process, my quilt top probably shifted a little bit and isn't perfectly square anymore. And it probably still won't be perfectly square, but we're going to try our best. I start by placing this on my largest cutting mat because I'm going to want to cut as much as possible without having to move it. So you'll want to lay your quilt as flat as you can. And then I grab my square ruler and my longest ruler I have. I start by putting the square ruler in the corner and you'll find that it is a little off. It's not completely straight, or maybe it is. I don't know. But you're going to want to find where you want to trim off that batting and backing and maybe a little bit of your quilt top, but you're going to want to save as much of that as you can. I would say I'm trimming off less than 1/8 of an inch. So I go ahead and I square this up as best as I can, and then I take my rotary cutter and cut the two edges here so that the corner is cut out. I also just took my scissors here and cut this so that it's easier to work with. Then I grab my longest ruler and butt it up right against the square ruler because we are going to want to make sure it stays square and cut all along that edge. So here I am lining it up, making sure that those two line up, or you can also place it on this side like this. This way you push the two edges of the ruler together and they really truly are straight. And then I go ahead and take my rotary cutter, and I'm doing this a little bit crazy here with my right hand going under the left arm. Maybe go to the other side of the table if you can. But you'll just want to go ahead and make that cut. And then if you can't cut anymore, move your quilt up. I am not quite to the corner yet, so I am going to continue using my long ruler, lining it up with that previous cut line. Make sure your quilt is nice and flat, and then continue cutting until you make it to the corner. Then I will bring my square ruler back in and square up this corner. So I follow the previous cut line with the one side of the square, cut all the way down, and then keep it lined up with that other side, and then cut the other direction. And then I will rotate my quilt and do the same thing all along this edge and repeat the process until I get back to the beginning. Once you have done that, your quilt is ready to be bound.